Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, what's in store for Benjamin Netanyahu's return to the White House?
There are no permanent enemies or permanent friends. There are permanent interests.
What Trump's rekindled alliance with Netanyahu and a new set of faces in Washington could mean for the future of Gaza. I'm Kevin Hirten, and this is The Take.
Trump is seen as this dangerous person, and he's brought this fanatically, religiously committed to Israel team. But the American government has been operating in this way before him, and my prediction, it will operate in this way after him. I am Ali Harb. I am a journalist for Al Jazeera English, based here in Washington, D.C., where I cover U.S. politics, foreign policy, and Arab American communities.
Okay, Ali, welcome back to The Take. You said you're in Washington, and we're speaking just as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is coming into town on Tuesday. We should say there's a warrant from the International Criminal Court for his arrest, and the U.S. is one of only a few countries that will allow him to visit. He's the first foreign leader to visit this White House on invitation from Donald Trump, which is actually a bit of a surprise because these two men have not been on the best of terms. Trump was furious at Netanyahu for acknowledging that Joe Biden won in 2020. So what's changed? How have they managed to reconcile?
So we saw Trump and Netanyahu have this very close, incredibly close relationship during Trump's first term. And then when Netanyahu rushed to congratulate Biden on his election win, Trump sort of became very angry and told an Axios journalist of Netanyahu, F him. But then as the election came around, Netanyahu needed Trump, especially with the war in Gaza ongoing. He needed to count on the support of the leading candidate. And Trump sort of needed Netanyahu to portray Democrats as unfriendly to Israel, to rally his base. So the relationship rekindled.
Congratulations, President Trump. Sarah and I send our warmest wishes to you, Melania, and the American people on your second inauguration as President of the United States. I believe that working together again, we will raise the U.S.-Israel alliance to even greater heights.
And as you mentioned, Netanyahu will be the first foreign leader, foreign head of state to visit Trump's White House 2.0. Which carries a lot of symbolism about that special relationship between the United States and Israel. Netanyahu is trying to dispel some of the concerns, particularly from the Israeli far right, that he lost his hold over American politics. And now you have this rogue Trump who's willing to do things differently and who could pressure Israel. And this perception comes from the notion that Trump pressured Netanyahu to sign on to the ceasefire. So Netanyahu is trying to restore some of his claim of manipulating American politics and particularly leveraging his relationship with Trump to advance Israel's interests.
Okay, so Trump has taken a lot of credit for the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, which took effect the day before he took office.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
But Trump has signed off on temporarily extending Israel's occupation of South Lebanon. So that's significant. That's something that Netanyahu wanted. Trump also suggested, as hundreds of thousands of displaced people are going back home to northern Gaza, that the entire population should be moved to Egypt and Jordan.
We just clean out that whole thing. It's, it's over the centuries, that's many, many conflicts inside. And I don't know, it's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished.
Now, this is a remarkable thing to just kind of throw out there. You've done some reporting on this proposal. Is that even feasible? I mean, would Egypt and Jordan ever agree to something like that?
No, they would not. And it's unfeasible because Egypt and Jordan may be committed to the Palestinian cause, but they're more committed to their own survival and their own self-preservation. And we've heard both countries come out very sternly say, no, this is a non-starter, this is a no-go. In fact, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt said something stunning. He said that if I agree to that, if I agree to this injustice of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, Egyptians will be out in the streets telling me not to participate in this injustice.
The historical injustice that happened to the Palestinians when they were displaced before, and they did not return to places they were previously assured that they could return to after rebuilding it. Can this case be repeated once more? I do not think so.
He's hinting that he may face some sort of popular uprising if he agrees to the displacement, to the mass displacement of Palestinians. But it's not just public opinion that factors into this. You have sort of national security concerns. Does Egypt want possibly thousands, if not tens of thousands of battle-hardened fighters who may attack Israel from its territory in the course of this displacement of Palestinians into Sinai? You have an issue of resources. Can Jordan and Egypt, who are struggling with beleaguered economies already, care for an additional 1.5 million people? So there are so many factors that would make this proposal a non-starter. But here's what's perplexing and bewildering. Despite these realities, Trump is not backing down. Just on Thursday evening, he went out and he told reporters they will do it.
They will do it. They will do it.
What makes you say that?
They're going to do it. Okay? We do a lot for them, and they're going to do it.
He says we helped them a lot. He's probably referring to the aid that the United States gives to Jordan and Egypt. But the aid that the United States gives to Jordan and Egypt is not charity. It's related to these two countries' normalization agreements with Israel. So if he were to pull this aid, these agreements would be in jeopardy. And a lot of experts that I talked to told me that just looking at this whole situation, Trump just doesn't seem very aware of the nuances or informed about what he's talking about. And you mentioned earlier that he's taken a lot of credit in the ceasefire in Gaza. At the same time, he's jeopardizing it. But this is typical Trump. Contradictions, chaos, and we'll see where it leads.
So how is Trump jeopardizing the ceasefire?
So we have this first phase of the ceasefire, 42 days. There's this truce. Basically, it's a temporary cessation of hostilities. We're not at the end of the tunnel yet. The guns will go silent for 42 days. And then during this period, negotiations are ongoing for what happens next. And what is the future of Gaza? Who will govern Gaza? What will reconstruction look like? Who will pay for reconstruction? And if Trump's solution to this is let's ethnically cleanse Gaza, that's not going to bode well with Palestinians, because no one in the whole of Palestine, not a single Palestinian, from the most ardent advocates of diplomacy and security coordination with Israel to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is seen as the most hardline in its commitment to armed struggle, will agree to the ethnic cleansing of your own people.
Is this something that's actually on the agenda or could be on the agenda, or is this just something that Trump is throwing out there?
I mean, this is something to look out for, right? My theory is that it's something that Trump is just floating. Mm-hmm. But Netanyahu is going to be in town. Now, we know from Israeli reporting that early in the war, Netanyahu said that he plans to thin out the population in Gaza. We know that Israeli officials like former National Security Minister Tamara Khandaker, like Finance Minister Smotrich, have been openly talking about population transfer and encouraging migration. So the idea is there. It's just that it hasn't materialized, right? The players it would require to materialize, namely Egypt, would never agree to this. And it has not agreed to this. So if Egypt did not agree to this at the height of the destructive, devastating war that has been described as a genocide, why would Egypt agree to it now?
More with Ali after the break. So, Ali, as we try to decipher this White House's policy towards Israel, we have to talk about the people the president has in his ear. We have former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who's an evangelical pastor, now ambassador to Israel, who has said things like Palestinians don't exist.
There really is no such thing as, and I have to be careful in saying this because people will really get upset, there's really no such thing as a Palestinian.
There's Marco Rubio, now Secretary of State, who in October 2023 called for the deportation of international students who support Palestinian rights. You also have Elise Stefanik, the ambassador to the United Nations, who says Israel has a biblical right over the occupied West Bank.
Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich and the former National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who believe that Israel has a biblical right to the entire West Bank. And in that conversation, you told me that, yes, you shared that view. Is that your view today?
Yes.
Say what you want about the Biden White House, but this is a whole nother level of support, isn't it?
It is rhetorically, right? It's definitely another level of support rhetorically, but we'll have to wait and see how that materializes. However, having sort of religiously committed people to Israel and people who are not even trying to pretend to pay any lip service to international norms, that takes you into dangerous territory. If we dissect what Elise Stefanik said, then a major concern comes out. She says, A, Israel has a biblical right to the West Bank. B, Palestinians don't have a right to self-determination. So what happens to the Palestinians, to the millions of Palestinians in the West Bank? Do they live under perpetual apartheid, which has been U.S. policy, by the way, in what the United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, B'Tselem called a system of apartheid? But something more dangerous, as ethnically cleansing Palestinians, removing them from the land, becomes a real concern when somebody is coming in explicitly with those views. And this somebody has the ear of the President of the United States. And the Trump administration comes to office in this bizarre moment in American politics when it comes to Israel, where we just had an administration that gave everything that Israel wants and then some under Biden. Unlimited supply of bombs, unlimited supply of diplomatic support, resistance against its own base that wanted the war to stop. And still, you see Republicans coming out and saying, the Democrats have given up on Israel, and we're going to come, we're going to stand with our allies because Democrats have not. And the issue with American politics is that when you get into this competition of who is more supportive of Israel, the goalposts keep moving. Mm-hmm. Oh, you gave Israel 17 billion? You should give Israel 17 trillion. Oh, you vetoed 4 ceasefire resolutions at the United Nations. We're going to put an ambassador who says Palestinians don't have right to self-determination in the United Nations. So these political dynamics in the United States just drive U.S. policy further and further to the right on a bipartisan basis. And it pressures the Republicans to do more for Israel. And in turn, it pressures Democrats to match them, up. Yeah. Lest they be seen as anti-Israel.
Yeah. So beyond the symbolic importance of this visit, is there anything that Netanyahu wants specifically from the United States? I keep thinking of that quote, what do you get for the man who has everything? Because it seems like he's gotten everything he wants, but is there anything else that he wants from Trump?
Netanyahu, throughout his career, he's had a fantasy of the United States fighting Iran to the last American. And that, I think, will be his top demand of Donald Trump. He didn't get it with Trump the first time around, but he came close when Trump ordered the assassination of top Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. Now there is a feeling in Israel of victory. And the last stop is Iran.
Wow.
The threat is Iran. And there's also this fear that Iran has suffered major blows. Syrian regime has fallen, one of its top allies. Hezbollah has suffered incredibly painful blows, militarily and politically in Lebanon. Hamas has had many fighters killed, and just look at the state of Gaza with the massive destruction. So there's a concern that Iran, to restore deterrence, would make a dash for the bomb. Because if you have a nuclear bomb, nobody will dare to attack you. So Netanyahu feels like he's in this race against time that we need to hit them before they even go there. And I would recall an anecdote from the Obama years, where an Obama White House aide told The Atlantic that the Israelis keep talking about attacking Iran, but they're chicken. So I think the Israelis don't want to attack Iran directly. They want the Americans to attack Iran for them, or at least do it jointly, so they can spread this burden militarily and politically.
So the answer to my question, what do you get for the man who has everything, is a war with Iran?
That's correct.
I know you said that Israeli policy has been very consistent and it will stay the same, but do you get a sense that there is this window in the next 2 years that if you're ever going to do something extreme, like clear out the Gaza Strip, this would be the time to do it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's certainly this feeling in Israel that Trump is a window of opportunity, that Trump will break precedents, that Trump will reverse policy. And there's some evidence of that, right? Like Trump moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Trump shuttered the diplomatic mission of the PLO in Washington. Trump defunded UNRWA. The only issue is that Biden came in, followed the same policy. Trump recognized Israel's claimed sovereignty over the occupied Golan Heights. Biden came in, territorial integrity, no country should take another country's land. Did not reverse those steps.
Yeah.
So it's not just an opportunity to do something now. They know if something's done, the next administration is not going to reverse it. But there's also the sense that Israel has maxed out. Like what can Israel do that it hasn't done? Even if they annex the West Bank, it's like, what difference practically? Yeah, it's going to make life harder especially for Palestinians in Jericho and in the Jordan Valley. But Israel already controls the West Bank. Israel already has its laws. Israel already rules over the Palestinians. And during a democratic presidency, during the presidency of a liberal president who loves supposedly human rights, they killed nearly 50,000 Palestinians and turned the entirety of the Gaza Strip into dust. So, yes, there is that concern that they're going to ask for more and maximalize. But there is also, I have the sense that there isn't much more they can do to Palestinians that they haven't done.
As we wrap up, let's take it back to the ceasefire. In about a month, the ceasefire will move to its second stage, which still needs to be negotiated, right? Now, this is something that Netanyahu either doesn't want or doesn't think that he can deliver and still keep his job. And the only backstop, the main guarantor for the Palestinians, is this Trump government, which we just got done describing in detail. Where does that leave the future of this ceasefire and the future of Gaza, Ali?
So, look, there are elements, there are factors that if you look at them, you say the ceasefire will hold. And there are factors that if you look at them, you say the ceasefire won't hold. The biggest factor is what happened on the ground, right? Like Israel fought for 14 months plus and could not find many captives and could not completely dismantle Hamas militarily and politically. And during this time, it faced massive popular international pressure. Israel also Netanyahu's facing a lot of pressure internally from his own people, namely the captives' families who want their family members back, but also from members of the Israeli security establishment who are viewing this continued fighting as futile. Israel was losing soldiers in Gaza. Israel is not didn't suffer casualties. So there's been a sense, not just, it's not recent, for months, that the fighting is futile, that we've hit we've hit a wall in how much we can achieve militarily. But then you look at domestic situation in Israel, where if Smotrich would withdraw from the coalition, even though he said he wouldn't, Netanyahu would be unemployed. He would be out of a job. And then when he goes to court for his corruption trial, it wouldn't be interrupted by the secret documents he's handed because he's such a, important person. He's an ex-prime minister now. He's a civilian, and he doesn't want that very much. You also have a Trump White House, as we described, that's staunchly and religiously and ideologically pro-Israel. So that doesn't bode well for the ceasefire. But I think the biggest element is that nobody has, least of all the Israelis and the Americans, a vision, a practical vision for the future of Gaza and reconstruction. And this is essential to move to the next stages of the ceasefire. Who is it that's going to rule Gaza? Who's gonna fund the reconstruction of Gaza? Who's going to oversee peacetime? So until this is resolved, there are a lot of question marks and a lot of concerns about the resumption of fighting.
Okay. Well, we'll have to leave it there. Ali Harb, I always learn so much when I talk to you. Thank you for coming on The Take.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
And that's The Take. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give it a like so more people can find it. And really, I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts about the episode. Let me know what stood out to you, or if there's anything you'd like us to dive deeper into next time. I'm always checking the comments, so please keep the conversation going. We'll see you tomorrow.